All right, welcome back. Episode 190 of Chaotically Intolerant. Happy New Year to everyone watching. We're going to talk some football. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Check out the website, sign up for the email list, and let's go. All right, Mike, let's jump into it. This was a weird week. Really bad week for me. I'll say that. Good and bad. There was positives to this horrible loss that the Indianapolis Colts put on me and put on the world to watch. But let's start with the Christmas Day games. Let's start Chiefs Steelers. The Chiefs are really fucking good. Again, the offense is back.
Yeah, I don't know if it's Hollywood Brown's return, but they look more explosive. They actually look faster. They look like they're a lot more aligned with what we've seen in years past. The speed of that offense, having more weapons, allows them to kind of mask some of the issues they've had with their offensive line. And, I know there's a lot of people on the other side saying, well, this is what we've seen from the Steelers. We've seen them get off to great starts and sort of fade down the stretch a little bit. And I thought for Kansas City, this was, they came out with a purpose in this game. They were trying to get the 1 seed. They wanted to earn themselves essentially 3.5 weeks of rest. And it wasn't, the Steelers ran for over 200 yards in this game. So there are always areas that you can attack the Chiefs, but they just make the plays. It's so much like New England. You'd think they have a weakness, or the secondary's banged up, or they're not running the ball well, or you can run on them. They just continue to find a way. And I think for all the talk about MVP race between Allen and Jackson, Mahomes is the one sitting pretty right now. 2 home wins, and the Chiefs are in their 3rd straight Super Bowl, and 5th. It would be their 5th in 6 years. Jeez, oh my God. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. I think this was a big prove it moment for the Chiefs, and they proved it. I think they more than proved it. They showed that the offense is actually quite good, and Patrick Mahomes, he's just the guy that does everything he should do, and then just a little bit more. Because and in comparison, you have Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, who does everything you should do and a lot more. Patrick Mahomes does everything you should do and just enough to win. Right. But I think I more want to discuss the Steelers, because now what were they, 10-3, and they've lost 3 straight. They had a 3-game lead on Baltimore for the division, or a 2-game lead.
I think a 2-game in shades of 2020 right now, when they started 11-0 and finished 12-5, including the playoffs.
What is the feeling? What is your feeling, I guess, as a Ravens fan on Mike Tomlin? Because I still think he's a great coach. He deserves to be back. Steelers fans, I know they judge things based on Super Bowls, but at the end of the day, you know what you're going to get with him. And have we still is this still this isn't a great team. This isn't an elite roster by far. And he's fooled a lot of people into thinking they were elite at some point in the year. So I don't know. What are the Steelers? What do we think of them? They're not real. They're not a Super Bowl contender. I said that when they lost to Cleveland on Thursday Night Football in the snow.
I think you could see that even before. I think Mike Tomlin's a great coach, and I'd argue that almost every year it feels like the Steelers have overachieved, this year very much included, and I don't think you can be mad at that. I think they're still built on a really good defense. One of the staples of great Steeler teams over the years has been the run game. We haven't really seen the Steelers be a physical smash-mouth team in a long time. I think that's something that Pittsburgh fans would like to see, harkening back to the days of, Jerome Bettis, being really physical, running the ball. They have a very good defense. Whoever they play, they're still going to give, I think they can still give people fits. But I just don't think they're that good of a football team. But I think Tomlin is a very good coach. You can't pin it all on him in a year where they weren't sure if it was going to be Justin Fields or Russell Wilson. They still have 10 wins. They're still going to the postseason. And I would argue if they end up as the 5 seed, they have a pretty good chance to beat Houston in the first round and at least check that box. They haven't won a playoff game since 2016.
Is Russ back next year? That's the other question.
I think he is. Yeah.
Who, yeah, are you going to roll with Justin Fields? Like, I see people saying you don't want him back. What else is out there? Because I don't think there's much coming out right now for free agency.
They're not
You're
going
not
back to
getting a good
Mason
draft pick.
Rudolph. Yeah,
Yeah, Mason Rudolph. There you go. Go get Mason Rudolph. Sam Darnold. If if they go to JJ McCarthy, Matt
maybe.
Stafford, maybe. I know there were talks about Matt Stafford earlier in the year, and those have obviously died out. But trade deadline, um, Matt Stafford is a Pittsburgh Steeler to end his career. That feels like it would look right to me. I don't know why.
It would look right, but I don't know if the Steelers can keep going down this Band-Aid route with quarterbacks.
It's what
Uh,
honestly, little bit of Colts in them right there, following a little bit in what the Colts do.
yeah, it's not a great free agent class. A lot of basically good backups available this offseason. Looking through the list of names that could be out there besides Sam Darnold. Uh, yeah, but you're not in a position to draft really high. And not that they were that high when they got Roethlisberger. What was it, 10 or 11 back in '04? It's a little bit of luck there, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I could see them bringing Russ back for another year.
And also, I just want to mention Travis Kelce. Great day. Showed he can still be a big impact player. I think they were looking for something from him this year, and he showed it. 8 catches, 84 yards, and a touchdown. Ravens, Texans. The Baltimore Ravens just dominate. The Houston Texans, that too is just the 31-2. That's just insulting, right?
Yeah. I think back to the playoff game, Giants-Falcons 2011 season. The Falcons, who at that time were, hadn't been in the Super Bowl since '98. They're just playoff embarrassment. The year before they lost 48-21, and then they lose 24-2. Somehow it's worse that the Texans actually got those 2 points. Of all things, tackling Derrick Henry in the end zone, who had 147 yards. They tackled him for like a 4-yard loss to get their only points. That was the play of the day for them. You kind of could see this coming. The Ravens coming on strong here at the end of the year. I think the Ravens are a team that's played worse than their record is to this point. The Texans have played better than their record is. So this was kind of this paths crossing, and you got to be really concerned about Houston. I mean, they're limping into the playoffs. They're really Stroud doesn't look comfortable. I don't know if he's dealing with injuries. Obviously he's missing his two best receivers, or two of his best receivers. It's been a real gut punch lately for the Texans. They're in, and these games don't really mean anything, but you look at how they've now stacked up the last couple weeks against the Chiefs and the Ravens. They do not look like they're ready to be in that elite class. And then for the Ravens, same old story. No problem. This was an easy one. Let's just flex our muscles a little bit. Still want to see how they stack up with the big teams and can they win the close games. But we're going to see a lot of Derrick Henry this January. I'm excited.
Lamar is really making an MVP push. This is 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, Josh Allen was. I think even you anointed him MVP, and all of a sudden, this is a very tight race. And you still have Joe Burrow in there, and you have Saquon Barkley in there too. But right now, if you want to look at an MVP, the only other one I think is Joe Burrow, but Lamar, man, Lamar is statistically he's been better than Allen all year.
Sure.
And he's dug the Ravens out of this hole. What did you guys start? 1-3?
0-2.
0-2. You started 0-2. I don't think a ton of 0-2 teams win their division, and he's going to do it. He's going to do it. I mean, not convincingly, but he could win it by 2 games.
I mean, they'll finish 12-3 after an 0-2 start, assuming they beat the Browns. I still would argue the Ravens would be in slightly better shape without Lamar Jackson than the Bills would be without Josh Allen, and that's always one of the big criteria I think I have for the MVP. I don't want Lamar to win the MVP because the 2 times he's won it, he has failed to reach the Super Bowl. Only one quarterback since Kurt Warner in '99 has won the MVP and the Super Bowl the same year, and of course that was Pat Mahomes 2 years ago. Brady never did it. Brady prevented it when Matt Ryan was playing. It's just for some reason, and maybe that's because as the MVP, you're deemed an MVP because you're carrying your team more than other quarterbacks who maybe are more on complete teams, like Pat Mahomes this year, right? He's not in any MVP discussion, but he's 15-1. He's still putting up really good numbers in the second half of the year, but he doesn't care. So I would still give the slight edge to Allen just based on what I said, but obviously Lamar is he's putting up the better numbers. So hard to argue. And I think Burrow, obviously, great season that he's had.
The MVP is, again, they need some sort of definitive. What is the MVP? You know,
It's
like
different in
what
football. It's much different
is
because
it?
it's
Is
always a
it just
quarterback almost.
is it just the best player? Is it you're the most valuable player to the team? Because I think Joe Burrow is the most valuable player to any team right now.
I
It's
think
him
Josh
or
Allen is the most valuable player, but yeah,
Josh Allen. You can definitely make a case for Josh Allen. Or if it's just the best player, it's Lamar. I want to look at the stats again, but I would say it's Lamar right now. Yeah, but Lamar, I'm happy Lamar's making a push. I'm glad this isn't just going to be Josh Allen running away with it. That's not fun. That's not
right.
good for the league. That's not fun. I guess we'll discuss Seahawks Bears. This game does not matter whatsoever. 6-3, Seahawks eliminated after a bunch of shit that happened for the Rams, or the Rams needed to happen, did happen on Sunday. And the Bears, not good. Not good at all.
Yeah, not much to say on this game, but happy for Mike McDonald, first year as a head coach, former Ravens DC. He has a winning season his first year, has a chance to get to 10 wins. They, I guess they're still rolling with Geno Smith moving forward. Why not? But look, Seattle's 6-1 on the road, by the way. Talk about the 12th man all the time. They're 3-6 at home. They're 6-1 on the road in his first year as a head coach. Maybe they've had an easier road schedule. I don't have the time to check, but yeah. And look, it just credit Seattle. This was at the time, this was a game they needed to win. They didn't know how things were going to shake out with the Rams. So, and for the Bears, who knows what to say? 4-2, and now they're 4-12, and the Hail Mary that ruined them. I don't know. Give Caleb Williams some help, please. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, Joe Burrow leads in yards and touchdowns right now.
Wow.
I would assume that's also. I want to see the average. Actually, what is the average here? Yeah, he's 11 in average, so he's throwing the ball a fuck ton of times because they're down. But he's still leading in yards and touchdowns. And is this a productive year for the Seahawks? Because it's a first-year head coach who has a winning record. What do you think?
I think so. I think they've got a good defensive line. I think they have some young players that they can build around. I think so. Yeah. Yeah, always tough because Pete Carroll had been there for like 14 seasons, 15 seasons, something like that. You make this transition. The roster wasn't a loaded roster to begin with. I think Mike McDonald squeezing 9 or 10 wins out of this team in his first go round is very impressive. So I think they have something to build on.
To the Saturday games, this fucked me up. We both watched the Rams Cardinals game together, of course, at a bar, and I thought it was going to be a very calm bar, a Sunday night. Usually Sunday nights pretty calm, but no, it was Saturday. It didn't feel like it, and it was rowdy. Karaoke, man, we can't do karaoke at a sports bar. That's insane. That is insane. A karaoke at a sports bar is crazy to me. But Chargers Pats, not much to say here. Chargers, they did what they were supposed to do. They clinched a playoff spot. I still don't believe in them. I really don't. I don't think, maybe it's just the aura around the Chargers. I think they got one more year. Harbaugh, you get them there. I think this is important to get them that playoff experience. They've had it before, of course, but that was with Brandon Staley and a massive blown lead. They have a very negative history with it. Maybe if they, can they get the? I want to look at the standings. Can they
get the 5? They win. Pittsburgh loses. They'll play Houston.
If they get to Houston, they'll win that game.
And they're also a team that the Chiefs should be maybe a little worried about. Remember, Ladd McConkey was out when they played on that Sunday night. They played 2 tight, low-scoring games under 20. I know it's the Chargers. I know it's the postseason. But remember, the Chargers would come in with absolutely nothing to lose in that game. The Chiefs are the team going for this three-peat. All the attention's on them. And you know how division games are. I'm not saying the Chargers would just go in and automatically win the game. I'm just saying that they could give the Chiefs a little bit of a hard time if it comes to that matchup. But if Pittsburgh wins, the Chargers are headed to Baltimore. The Ravens pretty much pushed them around on that Monday night.
Harbaugh.
Another Harbaugh in a postseason setting. Only thing I'll say on the Chargers is you're right. They are to playing bad teams what the Ravens are to winning games in general, which is they'll flex their muscles. They'll look really good when things are not, at their toughest. But Herbert, good numbers. The Chargers did what they had to do, and maybe for the Patriots, they came out with, remember, a great start against Buffalo the week before. The wheels fell off. Maybe this was just an emotional letdown. Been a tough year for Gerard Mayo. I think unless the players are vehemently against him returning as a coach, you give him another shot. But
Yeah.
Drake May is pretty banged up. We'll see what they do the last game against Buffalo. Doesn't mean anything for the Bills. For the Patriots, they could. I don't know if they can get the number one pick, maybe something there, but. And just hats off. Jim Harbaugh's done a great job. Chargers getting double-digit wins. I think any Charger fan would take that. And again, like you said, they play Houston. I think they get a win there.
Yeah, I think if they have to go to Baltimore, they are not. There's absolutely no way they win that game. I'm comfortable saying
it would be difficult. Yeah,
I'm comfortable saying there's no way they win that game. They couldn't win it at SoFi and on Monday Night Football in perfect conditions.
Well, 2018, Lamar beat the Chargers in LA, came back home, faced them in the playoffs. That was his rookie year, but they lost to the Chargers that year. Obviously, much better Chargers team, not much better, but worse Ravens team, better Chargers team. I understand that.
I would be very, very comfortable betting on the Ravens, especially outdoors. The Chargers, we've seen what they are outdoors. We saw them against Pittsburgh. Herbert had a hurt ankle. It's just they're again candy ass. If I have to see the Chargers blue in like a cold, maybe a rainy Pittsburgh or a rainy Baltimore, no, not happening.
Right, only two wins over winning teams, both against Denver. So
yeah, not good. Broncos Bengals, probably the game of the week, I would say.
One of them.
Close to it. Close. At least the game of the day.
Sure.
Joe Burrow again carries this Bengals team on his fucking back. Zach Taylor, I think you were initially we were a little against his time management. I think you're a little more coming around on at the end because maybe it wouldn't have been as much of a difference if he doesn't call that timeout. Maybe it's a 30-second difference. But man,
the
Bengals are so scary.
That.
They're fucking scary.
Well, I think yes, they're scary because what their quarterback can do. But I think you always have to take a step back and say, you know what, they are 8-8 for a reason. They are still a flawed team in a lot of ways. They still have issues in protection. They still have issues defensively. It's great to see what Joe Burrow's done. He's going to be your comeback player of the year, hands down, after the wrist injury cost him half of last season. Remember, they finished 9-8 last year with Jake Browning playing 6 or 7 games. So credit to Zach Taylor there. I know we've been kind of like talking about, is he on the hot seat? I don't think he is. I think he'll be back. The Bengals, they're not a franchise that's as quick to pull the trigger as some other organizations are with coaching. I think they need to fix their defense. That's a big problem. And at the end, you saw they got burned. Couldn't hold the lead there. It couldn't make that play. It's just, and that's the difference, right? When we talk about championship teams like the Chiefs, the thing is, it's not always the numbers. It's what percent of the time in the clutch situations do you make the play? And it seems like the Chiefs are almost flawless. When they need to make a play, they do. When Cincinnati needed to make a defensive stop, they didn't. When Denver needed to convert that 3rd and 9 to seal the game, kneel down in a tie, they didn't. It's those things, I've been impressed with Bo Nix. I think we're in a pretty quarterback-driven league when you could probably say Bo Nix would be the worst quarterback in the postseason if the Broncos end up making it, just based purely on the fact that he's a rookie. But he's shown a lot of moxie. It was just a great football game. And Burrow relied heavily on 3 guys who combined for 30 catches. Higgins had 11, Gesicki had 10, Jamar Chase had 9. And with that gargantuan effort by Burrow, they still needed overtime. So, yes, the Bengals are scary. Yes, there are probably some teams that don't want to see them. But again, they're 8-8. And if Miami beats the Jets, which with the Jets, Cincinnati's not going to have that chance to scare their opposition.
Yeah, well, so I'm actually looking at the history of the Cincinnati Bengals head coaches, and this is a little interesting to me. They have had 10 head coaches in their entire history. They started in 1968 with Paul Brown. Paul Brown was there for 8 years, and then Bill Johnson 3, Homer Rice for 3, Forrest Gregg for 4, Sam Wyche.
Yep, great coach, passed away a few years ago, yep.
For 8, Dave Shula for 5, Bruce Coslet for 5, Dick LeBeau for 3, and then Marvin Lewis for for 16. What's going on there?
Right, yeah, the Ravens forced Bruce Coughlin into retirement when they shut out the Bengals in Week 4 of their historic 2000 season, and then the Ravens, Marvin Lewis, who cut his teeth as the defensive coordinator for that 2000 team, ends up coaching there for 16 seasons. I just don't think that the Mike Brown likes to. I mean, they don't like to spend a lot of money. They're a very stingy organization. I don't think they like to rock the boat too much with coaches, so. That's why I said I don't see them moving on from Zach Taylor unless there's some major issues that we don't know about.
Yeah, if Marvin Lewis gets 16 years, I mean,
I think Zach Taylor going to a Super Bowl.
As much as
Lewis never won a playoff game.
As much as we make fun of him, he won four AFC North titles in those 16 years. So I mean, basically, he had his share, right? He won the AFC North in a quarter of his years. 7 playoff berths, and he won Coach of the Year in 2009. Not as bad as I think we remember.
It took Zach Taylor exactly 1 playoff game to top Marvin Lewis in playoff.
That is true as well.
That might be where. Now, granted, Marvin Lewis' best quarterback that he had in that time was Carson Palmer, who had a very nice career, but is not Joe Burrow.
Yeah. I think Zach Taylor. I think he's safe. I think he's safe one more year. If these defensive issues persist next year. Because I think last year really saved him too, because the Bengals weren't looking great last year. He wasn't on the hot seat last year. They weren't looking great. Joe Burrow's injury kind of saved.
Right. They overachieved when Browning was playing. Yeah.
Yeah. But when Burrow was in, they were underachieving, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Essentially.
And then this year, the defense is just Swiss cheese. It's horrible.
Yeah.
If you don't see major improvements next year, there's no way he stays. In my opinion, I don't know how you could keep him. I could understand even if you lose to Pittsburgh. Is it Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
This week? Yeah. If you lose to Pittsburgh this week, I could still see you bringing him back. And it would be very reasonable to bring him back. Let's go Cardinals, Rams. The Rams, you think they are the biggest frauds on the planet.
I don't think they're the biggest frauds on the planet. I think the minus 14-point differential at 10-6 is worth raising an eyebrow. And again, the part of that was their bad start, and they're playing great football now. I don't think they're total frauds. I just don't think they're in the class of those top 3 teams: Detroit, Minnesota, Philly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Arizona, good effort, man. I'll clap it up for them. At least just making it difficult, making them work for it. I know the offensive effort wasn't very good, and you called it. The intercept, the Kyler fucking it up.
They'll do something Arizona Cardinals-esque right around the goal line or inside the red zone, and sure enough, ball bounces off the guy's face mask for a game-ending interception.
If the field goal, if the extra point isn't blocked,
and if they
think that
the field goal when they went for it early in the game, that's 4 points. Yeah. They're kneeling down and kicking the winning field goal with no time left. Or a little time left.
I would even say let's not even remember that. Let's just say if the extra point is not blocked.
Block the extra point, then they
what do we think that are they running the same play? Are they trying to be as aggressive again, or do we think they're running the ball and saying, I think they're being aggressive? I don't know if they're going to run that exact same play. I think they're still Arizona, and I think they still mess it up somehow, or they just kick the field goal and lose in overtime on something just as ridiculous. That's true. Well, I would think the Rams maybe just go down and score immediately on that next drive. Jets, Bills, nothing really here. Bills clinch the 2 seed. Aaron Rodgers gets benched for Tyrod.
Benched himself, didn't he? I mean,
did he bench himself? I didn't know that.
Said, are we going to put Tyrod into the game?
Or did the media bench him?
I don't know. We bench him? We've all benched him. Tyrod Taylor, 11 for 14, 83 yards and 2 touchdowns. Granted, it's all garbage time, but every second that Aaron Rodgers is in there is garbage time for the Jets. It's so sad to see. I saw a video on like Barstool or something where they were walking out to Gangster's Paradise, but I don't know if that was that real or was that dubbed?
That was real.
Okay, that was real. Okay, that's
I'm
even
pretty
sadder.
sure that was real.
Yeah, and that was them pumping themselves up.
Yeah, and Josh Allen is standing in like the doorway watching. It looked like a lion looking at a herd of sheep like walking, and he's just like, man, he's licking his lips. He's like, that looks fucking amazing. I'm going to eat good tonight. And he did. He ate good. Actually, I mean, his numbers were pretty modest, I would say. 16 for 27, 182, and 2 touchdowns. Mitch Trubisky did come in. We did get a Money Mitch moment. He threw a long touchdown.
Yeah.
That was fucking awesome. I love Money Mitch. I'll take him on the Colts. We
Well,
need
so
we need
so
some.
and they were in the same. They were were they? No, they were 1 year apart draft class. Trubisky was the famed Patrick Mahomes. He was taken before in 17, and Allen was in 18. And I'll just say this on the Bills too. They knew they were locked in as the 2 seed, so there was not a lot on the line. Well, they weren't locked in, but they knew if they either beat the Jets or the
It
Patriots.
would
So
need a lot. They would need a lot.
yeah, they were, so you figured they didn't need to exert enough ton of energy to beat the Jets, and yet they stomped on them anyway. And I think that was big because they'd had a little bit of a letdown in that game against New England the week before, coming off that big Lions win. So I think the Bills are in great shape. I don't think we see very much, if any, of Josh Allen on Sundays. I think we see a lot of Mitch Trubisky, and the Bills get ready to play in the same round that they've played in now. It'll be 5 years in a row that they've played at home, right, as division champs. They've never had a bye. They've been at home in that wild card round. Kind of had to struggle to beat Miami 2 years ago. They scuffled against Indy in 2020, and
They scuffled.
They kind
The
of
only reason we lost that game, part of the reason we lost that game, was because Frank Reich wouldn't take the points.
Right,
On the
right,
goal.
yeah. And last year the Steelers kind of hung around in that game. The only time the Bills actually blew anyone out was New England in 2021 in that round. So we'll see. But
Yes.
I think they're going to prioritize rest next week. And the Jets just keep laughing. It's a joke. It's an embarrassment.
All right, Raiders Saints. Congratulations to Brock Bowers. Cool. Antonio Pierce, 2 consecutive wins for the Raiders. And this was a quick game from the Saints. Well, I think we've seen multiple quick games. This is just the Saints have just quit. It's not a quick game. They've just quit.
Right. It was the first time all year that the Raiders and Eagles did the same thing. So our little run was over there. I think Pierce keeps his job. Raiders are a mess. Don't blame Pierce. I like him. I think from a culture standpoint, he's got them. They just lack a lot of talent outside of Brock Bowers. There's no real reason to watch this team. Saints, Spencer Rattler, overmatched. Saints need a complete teardown. Hard to believe they actually have a better record than the Raiders. But again, at least they had Derek Carr. This would have been the Derek Carr Bowl. Instead, Saints are going to roll over against the Bucs. That's an easy division win for the division title for the Bucs.
Well, Derek Carr got to watch the Derek Carr Bowl.
Yeah.
They were playing for him.
Yeah.
They were playing for the right to Derek Carr.
Right.
And the Raiders won, which I think that makes sense. The Raiders should win that game.
Yeah.
I want to leave the Colts game to the last. Eagles Cowboys. Eagles just roll. Saquon Barkley, 2,000 yards in 16 games. So I guess it counts. I think we need to get away from because every record, if you keep adding games, every record is going to be, oh, it doesn't count. Oh, it doesn't count. Oh, it doesn't count. Oh, like you look at OJ. OJ did it in 14 games, right? You got to do the average. I think the average is the most important thing. Now, the one caveat, I think, is that Barkley is like 15 carries behind Eric Dickerson right now, going into the 17th game, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe if you give him 15 carries, then I could understand playing him week 18 if he cares about the record. Give him 5 to 10 carries, see if he can bust one out. If he doesn't, he doesn't. You sit him the second half. I think that's fair, but do you want to risk is it worth it to Saquon? This would be up to Saquon, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. The Giants or the Giants, but I think it's cool. He got 2,000 yards in 16 games. I think that's a huge accomplishment. I think you start him out. You see how he's going. If he looks like he's getting close, if he has a couple carries, gets stuffed early or something, maybe you say, hey, it's not worth it. I don't know, but
yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to find these statistics on this.
But on the other side, how about Kenny Pickett and Tanner McKee coming in? They combined for a 141.9 quarterback rating. So Eagles got to feel pretty good about that. I mean, it was kind of I don't know what it was for the Cowboys. I mean, they were coming off that upset win on Sunday night against the Bucs. Thought maybe they'd carry those good vibes over, and they just rolled over and died after a 7-7 first quarter.
So Saquon has 345 carries, and Eric Dickerson had 379. Wow. The year he rushed for 2,105 yards. So Saquon, I think there's some validity to this, and I'm gonna play a little bit of counter here. More games means you're fighting through more injury. You're fighting through more of those little bumps and bruises. right? You're dealing. It's physically more difficult. So I think this might even out a little bit on the aspect of, oh, it's not fair because they're playing more games, but you're using your body more. It's more difficult. I mean, these guys already talk about how it's impossible to play 17 games and not have some bumps and bruises. And so I think it's fair. I think it's perfectly fair. I think if he gets the record even in week 17, I would say he is the record holder. It's a fair record.
I think it's a fair record too.
Eric Dickerson also, I think he's getting a little. I think he's getting a little unfairly hated on because he said he didn't want someone to break the record. First of all, I love Eric Dickerson, a little curmudgeon-y. I love it when old football players are a little curmudgeon-y. Would you want your record to be broken? I wouldn't be like terribly upset about it if I had that record. But I think as a competitor, you want to keep the record, but it's also cool to usher in a new era, right?
Right.
Let's go Bucks Panthers. Panthers just, I mean, they were missing everyone. They didn't have Chuba Hubbard. I don't have their injury report, but they were missing a lot of people. And the Bucks did exactly what they should. They got to win. Got to win Sunday. They're in line to win the South right now. And they're playing the Saints, if I'm not mistaken.
Tampa Bay plays the Saints to finish the year. Yeah, they crushed them 51-27 the first meeting back in like week 4, week 6 or something. Tampa Bay, the Duck was the star of the game. They missed the block punt because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, were 2 foot. They had the it was like the good luck duck, whatever. Baker Mayfield, enormous day. 359, 5 touchdowns, no picks, only 5 incompletions. If this Bucks offense shows up, of course they're not playing Carolina every week. Tampa could be a scary team in the playoffs. They really could. I mean, this is going to be their 4th straight division title, 5th straight year in the playoffs. And they got a taste of playoff success last year when they hammered the Eagles and they kept it close with the Lions. So I don't know. I'll just put it this way. I'm more sold on the Bucks making a run than I am the Rams making a run because of their explosive capabilities, because Mike Evans is amazing, because they're getting great production from Jalen McMillan. They're running the ball well. Defensively, not great, but playing a little better. The Bucks are an interesting team.
I'm a little nervous about the Bucks this week. I am against New Orleans. One, New Orleans looks like they are dead in the water. They look awful. And Tampa has, in this past year, when they have won games maybe that they shouldn't have won, they go out and they struggle the next week. They beat Detroit 20-16 week 2, and then they lost to the Broncos 26-7. They got hammered in that game. Beat Philly the very next week, and then lost to the Falcons in that 36-30 game. So that was a close one. That's not, but that's maybe not one they should have lost. And then they beat the Chargers. They hammered the Chargers, a playoff football team, and then they lose to the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. So I'm really nervous about them against New Orleans. I feel like this might be a little bit of Colts 2021 against the Jaguars. Mm. You got a winning in, you have a team that is dead in the water. I'd be a little nervous. I'd maybe look at a bet on New Orleans, but we'll talk about that when we pick the games. Jaguars Titans did play football. They did decide to play a football game, and the Jaguars won 20-13, and that's all I have to say. Pretty fair.
Yeah, I mean, good for the Jags. They swept the Titans. Titans beat the Texans earlier this year.
That's true.
Who knows? And Titans said they're going to start both quarterbacks, or not start, but play both quarterbacks next week. So it was a throwaway year for them.
Quarterback by committee.
Yeah, and I'm also I like Doug Peterson. I know he's going to probably get fired. He's had a rough year. I think he's a good football coach. I think the Jaguar organization is a mess. I think that it's just, I don't know if it's something from the top down, culturally, whatever. I think Peterson's a good coach, but he needs to change the scenery.
Browns Dolphins. Dolphins keep their hopes alive. Browns not good, very not good.
Gross game, as you'd say, in gross weather.
Yeah, really gross. This one did not. I mean, I think the white uniforms look a little better in the cold. Uh-huh. If the Dolphins do happen to make the playoffs, they need to wear white uniforms. They cannot go with anything else because the aqua looks chicken shit. as we love to say. But the Browns, I think we did see a little Jameis in this game. It needs to be Jameis. Jameis just gives, I still think he gives them the best chance to win.
Yes, he does. I think he's nursing a shoulder injury, so I'm not sure how that factors in. I think he was the emergency quarterback. Okay. Yeah, there was a thing I wanted to watch with John Gruden when it cut off, and he was asking why Winston wasn't in there, and I'm pretty sure it is injury related because clearly Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
Oh, we did not see him. We did not see him. I'm sorry. I thought I heard them mention him on the broadcast.
No, DTR played the whole game. He rough numbers. Shout out to Tyler Huntley, though. Former Raven, 22 for 26, 225, a touchdown, 7 carries, 52 yards, a touchdown. In a game the Dolphins needed. Yes, the Browns stink, but on the road in cold weather, winning the game's one thing. They win ugly, whatever. He put up great numbers. The offense looked like it was at times moving pretty well. So
he was efficient. It was
efficient.
It did not look like how it looked earlier in the year,
right? When he played against like Tennessee or whatever, and I think
and the Colts.
then they think and I think they'll feel good about their chances going in to play the Jets this week if Huntley has to go again.
Yeah, Vikings Packers, great game. The Vikings are very for real. I think
they're very good.
I'm sold. Team. I'm sold, and I know I'm gonna be burned. I'm gonna be burned in a few weeks. I know I am. But I'm sold on the Minnesota Vikings. And now they have a really difficult decision on what to do. I think you try and do the Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love thing with J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold. I think going into the draft, we knew J.J. McCarthy was a little raw, came out. I think he had a pretty good preseason. But I think you can have him sit. Maybe you lock down J.J. McCarthy for a few years. You sign him and Darnold to a contract. You have Brian Flores. You try and retain Brian Flores. You keep this defense, and you look at the next 3 to 4 years, and you say, "Let's fucking go." We have 2 quarterbacks that could be of high potential, and the Packers. I mean, this game, the Vikings had a 17-point lead in this game as well, so I don't think we can forget about that. They did blow a big lead, and they let the Packers back into this game. I feel like if you're, am I correct that this game didn't really matter for the playoffs? Because either way, they would have had to win next week against Detroit for the division, at least.
Not necessarily. No, if the Vikings had lost and Detroit had won, Detroit would have clinched. So Minnesota needed to win this game.
Never mind.
Minnesota had no path to clinch the division this week. They did lock up officially at least the top wild card spot. Green Bay might have been in play for that with some tiebreakers. I think had they won out, Minnesota lost out. Anyway. Thought this was a great game. I thought Sam Darnold had one bad pass that sailed on him when they were up by 17. The defense let down a little bit there when they got a big lead, but again, it was Darnold's making some plays. Kevin O'Connell showing some stones there at the end, throwing to run out the clock rather than just trying to run it with Aaron Jones and be conservative. I like that. This is a different approach for the Vikings. We've always felt like maybe they're kind of a tentative team or whatever. Tons of talent here, really good vibes. I am sold on the Vikings. I don't know if it'll result in a Super Bowl berth or not, but if they get the 1 seed, you'd have to feel pretty good about it. Honestly, the way they're going and as explosive as they are, defense getting turnovers. And for Green Bay, same story. This is just what I think Packer fans feared all year is that we've been swept by our 2 chief division rivals. We've also lost to Philly. That's all 5 of our losses. All their wins. Yes, they beat the Rams earlier when they were kind of slumping. That's really it in terms of kind of legitimate. Yeah, they beat Houston, but there's reason to sort of maybe move the Packers away from that top tier now, I think.
Kevin O'Connell, Coach of the Year?
100%. Odds makers have him at like minus 1,600, so I think that's pretty much wrapped up.
All right. Falcons, Commanders. The Atlanta Falcons. This was a tough one. This was I think this was a weird game. I think, especially for the Bucks, because I think they would benefit either way. Would they? I think if they can't remember. I think if the Falcons won, like maybe the Bucks would have clinched or something. Clinched a playoff spot. No, that's not true.
The Falcons could not have clinched in this game. The Commanders obviously could have with a win, which they got, or a tie would have also gotten them in the postseason. But it's interesting now the Commanders are alive for the 6th seed. Dan Quinn addressed that. He said it's important. I think they're going to play maybe a little safe with Jaden Daniels, but they're going to try to win the game. That would make them the 6th. That means they would get either the Rams or the presumably the Bucks, and not the Eagles.
You can't be swept by the Cowboys. You can't be swept by the Cowboys.
Don't want to play the Eagles and tempt fate that you're going to beat them twice in less than a month. I thought this was just a great game. This is a gritty game for the Commanders. It's a very Dan Quinn team gets the ball. An Atlanta Falcons team gets the ball in overtime, watches the team go down and score a touchdown. Dan Quinn's seen that before. I'm happy that he was on the right side of it this time, like he was not in Super Bowl 51. Washington they let Atlanta back in. And Raheem Morris, by the way, horrible clock management. Egregious not calling a timeout late in regulation, which forced a long field goal, which looked perfectly straight, but it was about 6-7 yards short. And Michael Penix, hey, hats off to him. I thought he was very poised, played pretty darn well in his first career road start under the bright lights. But
prime time.
It looks like Atlanta's going to be on the outside looking in this year.
Lions, 49ers, Monday Night Football. 49ers gave a fight. They gave them a fight. Lions, this game did not matter for them, but they still sent their guys out there, and they did the thing that I think they expected to do, even though it didn't matter.
I think that the Lions did what I expected to do as far as playing this game aggressively, even though they really didn't have a ton of stake. I know that winning now puts them in a position where a tie wins them the division, where if they didn't, then the tie would go the Vikings' way. But I'm just glad the Lions appeared to come out of this game healthy. They have some major defensive issues. They won the game the only way that they could, which is outscoring the 49ers, which is just being better on offense, having their offense be the unit that carries them. Also, why does Dan Campbell go for it on every fourth down when Jake Bates can hit 57-yarders seamlessly? He gave up 3 points early. I get it. It's your MO. People love the whole break the kneecap Dan Campbell thing, but last year, it cost him a trip to the Super Bowl. He's got to be a little smarter with that stuff.
He acts like he's still an underdog. He play calls like they're underdogs. They're not. And
I get that, and I get that they're in a situation where they feel they're going to need to score more points because of their defense. But I would just hate to see Detroit be tripped up by that same issue that really hurt them in the NFC Championship game last year. But I think they're going to have problems moving forward, and if they lose this game, it's crazy to think that they lose this game to Minnesota, they could suddenly have a 14-3 season that once looked like they were going to have home field throughout, be the NFC favorites, and they could possibly have to go on the road, play the Rams, play the Bucks in the wild card round. Remember, Rams took them to overtime, Bucks beat them. Those were their first two opponents this year. Suddenly the narrative has changed a lot on the Lions. This game next week is maybe the biggest regular season game the Lions have ever played. 2 14-2 teams. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah. I will talk about the Colts Giants because we are short on time for Mike, so I will talk about the Colts Giants after we pick the games. We're going to start Saturday, week 18, big one here for the Ravens. Win, and you are division champions. Baltimore sitting at 17.5 home favorites. My God. The Browns, I don't think they're going to lie down and die. That does not feel like a Browns thing to do. The current Browns, maybe the past Browns, but the last 5 years of the Browns, I feel like they'll put up more of a fight. Who you got?
I mean, it's a lot of points, but I think the Ravens, again, when the Ravens win, they generally just do it in steamroll fashion. I cannot see Dorian Thompson-Robinson doing nearly enough offense. So the Ravens would have to catastrophically implode. I'm taking the Ravens.
It is DTR, no Jameis.
As far as I know, yeah. I haven't seen anything on Jameis. Again, I think because he's nursing an injury, it says he's likely to be the number 3 quarterback again. So I think it's just a break glass in case of emergency. They've got Bailey Zappi as their backup. So I think either way, the Ravens are in good shape.
I think you go Bailey Zappi this week, honestly. just do
Can't
something.
Be any worse than DTR,
you saw what you had from DTR. It wasn't much. Bengals Steelers, which the Steelers will be watching. That game on early Saturday. Cincy sitting at 1.5 point road favorites here. I don't like that for Cincy whatsoever. Steelers home underdog, but they were home underdogs to the Chiefs, and they were manhandled, to say the least. So, what you got?
Steelers put up 44 on the Bengals in the first meeting. This is a very tough game to call. It's hard for me to see the Steelers losing 4 straight going into the playoffs. Bengals have been on this great run. I'm gonna take Steelers.
Give me the over and the Cincinnati Bengals. I just like the Bengals in this spot. Joe Burrow is not going to quit. He's not going to lie down and die. If they lose this game, they are losing very close. They are losing with everything they got in their heart. They're leaving everything out there. To the Sunday games, we got some shitty ones. We got some good ones. Panthers, Falcons could be a good one, I think. Atlanta, 8-point favorites. I don't like that line.
Yeah. Coming off that emotional game, give me the points there.
Yeah, I'll take that. But I feel like the Falcons are going to do it. I think they got to win this one. I think they will win this one. Commanders, Cowboys, Washington, 4.5-point favorites on the road.
I like the Commanders just because I'm so disgusted what I saw from the Cowboys last week.
Mm-hmm. I like the Commanders too. 12-win Commander team, Washington team. When was the last time we saw a 12-win Washington football Redskin team?
It's
been a long time
for sure. Yeah.
Not in this century. Not in this century. I feel like we haven't had that.
No chance. Yeah, it's been since it's been a long time. 1991 when they won the Super Bowl.
Wow. There you go. Bears, Packers, Green Bay, 8.5-point favorites. Bears, you're playing for pride, rivalry pride here in Lambeau. You can do it.
No, you can't. The Packers need to bounce back. They own the Bears, and they're still in play for the 6th seed. And just like the Commanders, they want to avoid Philly. So a win and a Commanders loss would help them achieve that. They could then play the Rams, team they beat already this year. I think Green Bay bounces back.
Yeah, I think this is going to be closer than they would like. I think you're going to see a little bit more out of the Bears, maybe some life just because it's a rivalry game. I would look at Bears plus 8.5, but give me the Packers here. Texans, Titans, this means nothing. Tennessee 1-point favorite.
I think Houston needs to bounce back. They need to figure out a way. They've had some time off to stew from these losses to the big teams. I think they bounce back. They also lost to Tennessee earlier. So I think they want to feel good, get to 10 wins before they lose at home in the playoffs.
Flip a coin, man. Flip a coin. Just flip a coin. I'm not even giving a pick out of disgust for this one. Jags, Colts. Colts are 5-point favorites. I hope no one shows up to this game. I hope there are no fans in the stands. No fans.
I after that gross Colts effort, I'm going to go Jags. Points.
I hope it's the Jags. I think I'm rooting for the Jags at this point. I think I am. I just want this. I want a full rebuild. I want a full teardown of this organization. Bills, Pats, Buffalo, 2.5-point favorites in New England.
I actually somehow see, I don't know why, but I almost feel like the Pats are going to figure it out. But because they beat them almost beat them the first time, I'm going to go with the Pats. Trubisky makes a mistake or something late in the game. Yeah, why not?
I like it. I'm gonna roll with Buffalo, just because. It's still Buffalo. I feel like it's gonna be I think they're gonna do the same thing that they did last week. Yeah, like a week ago when they played. It'll be close in the first half, and then I think Buffalo will instill their will even with the backups. Giants, Eagles. This one means nothing, correct? Because Philly is locked up at 2. Philly 3-point favorites at home at the bank or at the link.
I'll probably still go with the Eagles. I don't see them losing at home. I think the Giants got their one big moment last week. So, and both backup quarterbacks played great for the Eagles last week, so I don't think that messes things up too much. I'm on Philly.
Saquon over under 5.5 carries. Over, yes, I like it. Let's get the record. Saints, Bucks, Tampa, 13-point favorites at home against the Saints. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit.
It is a big number. Just this Saints team is so freaking bad. I'm still going to take Tampa, even if it's like a 31-16 win. I cannot get on board. This is an awful version of the Saints.
But Darren Rizzi is going to trap you. This is the perfect trap. This is the perfect Darren Rizzi trap. And this probably will sound stupid on Sunday at 1:05. It will sound stupid because the Bucks will take an immediate 7-point lead. But I'm going Saints here. Money line. Give me a Saints money line. Upset of the week. I still think the Bucks will win the division. Possibly. I'm just not confident in Atlanta, man. I'm not confident in them. Chiefs Broncos. We don't know if Patrick Mahomes is going to be playing in this game. I like to think they're going to be like, you're our division rival still. Fuck you. Denver, 11-point home favorites right now.
11-point home favorites. Sorry, I lost you there for a sec. Which game is this?
Chiefs and Broncos.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Just edit that part out where I missed. Yeah, all right. It's Chiefs Broncos. I love just comparing things to historic things that have happened from when I was growing up watching football. 2004 Steelers Bills Week 17. Bills hadn't made the playoffs in exactly 9 years. Broncos haven't made the playoffs in exactly 9 years. They were facing a 14-1 Steelers team, playing their backups. Tommy Maddox, Brian St. Pierre, no Roethlisberger. Buffalo had it there. They were hot. They'd won 6 in a row, and the Bills came, and then the Steelers came in and beat them, knocked them out of the playoffs. I don't think that's going to happen for Denver, but would it shock me at all if Carson Wentz and the backups of this Chiefs team made it a game? Absolutely not. All the pressure's on Denver. They just played an emotionally draining game against Cincinnati, and it's not a lock. If they lose this game and Miami wins or Cincy wins, Denver loses a playoff spot. I think the Broncos win the game, but I would definitely take the Chiefs with the points.
Carson Wentz, I watched him for a year in Indianapolis, especially like that was the most Carson Wentz year of his career. He is good for some fuck shit, whether it's actual on the field fuck shit or just messing with the entire playoffs type of thing. He's good for it. You're going to get something weird from him. I love the Chiefs. I at least give me plus 11 at least. I feel like this Broncos team lately they're not. I don't know, but they blew the Colts out, so maybe I'm wrong about that. Chargers 5.5-point favorites. This means nothing.
It
does mean something. They do need to win. Yeah, playoff seeding.
I think the Chargers keep it rolling. It's another bad team. I can't see the Raiders finishing the year with 3 straight wins. They'll finish 0-6 in the division. I don't know. Well, if the Steelers win, that's the thing. If the Steelers win, then the game is useless for the Chargers. But if the Steelers lose, there's an opportunity. So my pick would be based on that. I think if the Steelers win the game, I think we see the backups. I think the Raiders actually will cover. If the 5 seed is alive, I would actually expect the Chargers to play that game to try to win it.
Seahawks, Rams, Seattle, 5-point favorites in LA. I think they're gonna. Oh, there's no spoiler here, actually.
Yeah.
Are the Rams locked in?
They're not locked in, and I've never seen a week with not only so many games involving seeding in particular, but games where teams actually want the seeding. 2005, Bill Belichick intentionally benched Brady, called some weird plays, drop kick from Doug Flutie so that the Patriots would lose, avoid the Steelers, who ended up winning the Super Bowl. He got the Jaguars instead. They pummeled them 28-3. Interesting call here for the Rams, because getting the 3 seed, they would face either the Commanders or the Packers. Getting the 4 seed means they're getting the Vikings or the Lions. I think it would behoove the Rams to win this game. The tiebreaker would go to the winner of, to the Bucs if they win the South. So I actually think the Rams are going to be a little more juiced up for this game. I know Seattle wants to play spoiler. I can't see Seattle being a 10-win team, so I'm going to go with the Rams.
Yeah, I like the Rams. They need this. If you have to face the Vikings, if this Rams team has to see the Vikings or the Lions, I'm not comfortable. This is not the Rams team of last year that saw the Lions. Dolphins, Jets. This one could mean something. It could not mean something. Miami 1.5-point favorites against the Jets on the road.
It will mean something because it's being played at the same time as Chiefs Broncos. The Bengals game does not impact what the Dolphins.
Oh, that is at the same time.
The league does this now every time in Week 18. So I'm taking Miami. That Jets team I think they have a better shot if they go with Tyrod Taylor, but they're probably not going to do that. Aaron Rodgers won't let him. He is the coach and the owner of that team. So I'm going Miami. I hope Tyler Huntley if he gets a chance, I hope he does great again. Taking the Dolphins.
Yeah, give me the Dolphins. Give me Miami. 49ers, Cardinals. This one means nothing.
Who cares?
Arizona -4, except for pride and crazy NFC West stuff.
I don't know. I don't know how serious Purdy's injury is. I think if he doesn't play, I'd take Arizona. If he does, I'll take the Niners.
I will. I'm going to hope for a tie. I love, we're in the last week of the regular season. Give me extra football. Give me overtime football. Give me a tie. I like a tie.
Put a bet on that and get good odds.
Vikings, Lions, Detroit -3.
I mean, I don't know. It's hard to really say. I remember the Colts Patriots, Brady Manning, Super Bowl 41.5. This has got to be one of the biggest regular season games ever. I think they said it is historic that we've never had like two. Well, obviously, 17 game seasons only been around a few years, but if we ever had two 14 or even 13 win teams playing at the end of a year, let alone in the same division, this is tough, man. But I just don't like what I saw from the Lions defense. And they're on a short week now, and they played that game to win too, which means that I don't know. Call me crazy. Sentimentally, I want to take the Lions because it's been their year all the way through. I had to flip a coin, though. I wouldn't be shocked at all if the Vikings win. This is a brutally tough game to pick. I would just take the points and say if the Lions win, it's going to be by like 1 or 2. So I'll take Minnesota.
If we're talking about the Lions, normally they lose this game historically, right?
Right.
Like they're riding high. They come off a big win against San Francisco. I think they needed that win against San Francisco. I think that was just another confidence booster going into this. Think about if they lose that game, right? They're coming in, and you're coming in. Now you're coming in behind. You need to jump the Minnesota Vikings at that point. I think that was important to win that game, especially how close it was, because it's not like that was a backdoor cover. That was a close game and then Detroit kind of pulled ahead by 2 scores late. And then San Francisco did the thing where you score with like 45 seconds left and then try to get the onside kick, didn't get it. It was a close game. That was a very reasonable game that San Francisco could have won. I like Detroit here. I think this is a good spot for Detroit. I think the Vikings are also still the Vikings. I think they will still burn you. They are going to sell you on it, and they will burn you. This is not the Kirk Cousins Vikings that were really fucking lucky, but I think this is a good spot for them to burn you.
Yeah, I want to throw a couple quick shout-outs and nuggets before I jump off here. I'm going to say one thing for the Lions, 8-0 on the road. This is a team that this century has had a 24 and 26 games separately road losing streaks in the Matt Millen era, or at least starting the Matt Millen era. The second one started in that 0-16 season. 8-0 on the road, that is a big, big deal. So kudos to the Lions. We have 3 teams that are 5-0 in division play going into this final weekend. Since realignment in 2002, this is year 23. We've never had more than 2 teams finish 6-0 in the division. I understand Week 18 kind of enables these meaningless games now, where now if the Bills finish 5-1, it's not like they're really 5-1, but just an interesting statistical nugget that just proves that division games are different. And boy, I hope that we get the game that this Lions Vikings game lives up to its billing. It's going to be, I mean, just in terms of the stakes, these are 2 franchises that have completely turned around their identity from what they've been in the past. And it's going to be fun to see both of them. It's just a real shame. I want to say also NFL should consider reseeding at least on the basis of if you have like a 4 or 5 win gap. It should maybe either be based on a certain gap in wins, or if the teams have played head to head, at least don't penalize, if the better team has won the head-to-head, but if it goes the other way, it's like the Vikings-Rams, the Rams beat the Vikings, maybe you could justify saying, okay, the game should be in LA. Hate it. I hate that the team that loses is going to have 14 wins and be a 5 seed. Something not right about that.
Yeah, that's not right. All right, well, I think that's a good place for us to stop. I'm going to discuss the Colts.
Yes, I will let you. I will check back in on that later. I'll watch and see how that went. But yeah, man. Well,
not good
not good at all. But I'm excited to hear it later. Happy New Year to you, to all our listeners and viewers. And we'll see you on the flip side of 2025.
All right. Just me. The Indianapolis Colts are it's over. It's over. It's everything. I think this is time. What they should have done after the Wentz experiment with Frank Reich, they should have reset there. That's when you fire everyone. That's when you reset everything. And they didn't do that, of course. We saw them try with Matt Ryan. That was clearly a very flawed team. Then we saw Jeff Saturday. And then, you go 4-12 and you get Anthony Richardson. And last year he didn't play. He played 4 games. You had Gardner Minshew come in, and you're one win away from an AFC South division title. Basically a drop pass. Possibly you can go and score a touchdown on that. And this year has been, you go into this year expecting to take a step forward. Okay. You expect a playoff berth at that point, because if you're one win away from the playoffs, you have to expect more. right? That's what a coach should be doing. You should be building on that. And everything has been a step back. Statistically, offense, defense, just the entire team has taken a step back. Okay. You're eliminated from the playoffs in week 17. You don't even have a chance for the division in week 17. You're eliminated from the division in week 16. You, in a game that is your season, it is your entire season against a 2-13 team at that point, you give up 45 points. The team was averaging 14 points a game. This has been an utter and complete step back. They have not built on anything. There is a lack of discipline on all the sides of the ball. You give up a kickoff return touchdown on the opening drive of the second half. You have Jonathan Taylor drop it. I mean, he just dropped a wide open pass. You have guys just not putting in effort. I think Michael Pittman was one of them. He had a drop pass, just didn't even make an effort to try and make the play. I think the biggest example of the lack of discipline was the Jonathan Taylor drop against Denver. He's a great player. He's a fantastic player, but that is just something that doesn't happen on a well-disciplined team. And a well-disciplined team also finds a way to come back. Instead, you have a play caller who sees that the offense is starting to hum again in the second half of that Denver game, and he calls for a behind the line of scrimmage double pass. It gets picked off and taken back to basically end the game, and then you're blown out. And that was essentially your season. Denver was essentially the Indianapolis Colts season. They laid down. They quit. That team quit. And you can say what you want. They came back out against Tennessee, and Taylor went for 100 or 200 something. I don't care. You ran the ball 50 times. Anthony Richardson threw the ball 11 times because you're afraid that he's going to get to Tim Tebow's record for worst completion percentage for a starting quarterback in the NFL. This has been an utter and complete failure with Shane Steichen. He is both incredibly aggressive and incredibly conservative at the same time. There's not a ton of creativity where you want to see the creativity. You want to see some creativity in the run plays with Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson. You haven't seen that much of it. You really don't. And more with Jonathan Taylor, really. A lot of it is to the middle. A lot of it is just useless. You have Anthony Richardson out there for a reason, to scare the defense and to take the attention off of Jonathan Taylor. If you look at some of the personnel decisions, I mean, let's go back to Houston last year. Why is your third or fourth string running back out on that play? And you can say, oh, they were running it with him in practice. Why are you running it with him in practice if you know that's going to be the play you call on a fourth down? And this has just been this is a perfect point for the reset. You get Chris Ballard out of there. You get Gus Bradley. You get Shane Steichen. You get everyone out. You need a general manager who's going to stick up to Jim Irsay and say, no, I'm doing things my way, because Chris Ballard has basically only done things Jim Irsay's way, except for Carson Wentz. That's when you should have fired him, because you went with Frank Reich's decision and it didn't work. It failed. This was an utter and complete failure. This has been an utter and complete failure of a season where you're expecting to build and you didn't do it. Most teams say, okay, we're going to go into full rebuild. I could see, I'm going to be honest, I could see you trying to get Michael Pittman's contract off. I could see you trying to get Jonathan Taylor's contract off. I think you keep Anthony Richardson because he's cheap right now. Keep Adonai Mitchell because he's cheap. You keep Josh Downs because he's cheap. I'm just looking at this team right now. Buck, I could see if you want to keep a guy, a veteran on the defense. I think he's an important veteran. But there's a lot of guys you can get rid of. There's a ton of guys that you can get rid of here. And I just think it's time. There's a lot of guys on this team that have been here for the entire Chris Ballard era, and it just has been a complete and utter failure. The Jacksonville Jaguars have won the AFC South twice. The Tennessee Titans have won it twice, and the Houston Texans have won it 3 times, if I'm not mistaken, I think. In that span, the Indianapolis Colts have not won it once. The last time they won it was 2014. This is a clearly very difficult division to win. The AFC South is just horrible. They've been horrible, and the fact that you haven't won it at all means you are the worst team in the AFC South. Under Chris Ballard, you are the worst team in the AFC South. Ryan Grigson, at least the guy spent money. You know, he had Andrew Luck carrying his entire team. So, but at least he spent money on something. Chris Ballard, you only see him spend money on the guys that are in-house. You don't see him bringing in proven talent and spending money on proven talent, you know, to improve the team. It's time. You need to get, I mean, you have Ben Johnson out there. I'd love to see a Ben Johnson. Vrabes, I said this on Unstable on another show that I do a Colts hit on. I could see possibly a Mike Vrabel situation, but I don't think it's ever a good idea to give a head coach full and utter control. You need another person in there saying, you know, telling him and fighting back on some of the decisions, because sometimes they're wrong. The Mike Vrabel offenses were carried by Derrick Henry, and they were incredibly bland. They were very vanilla, but Derrick Henry was just so good that you could do that. And Ryan Tannehill was consistent enough where you could be vanilla, and he's not going to turn the football over. He's not going to make the big mistakes that kill you. But again, you didn't really have any real winning with Tennessee either in Mike Vrabel. You need a guy. I could understand a DC with Mike Vrabel if he would be interested in that. I don't know if he's going to want a defensive coordinator job. I would assume a guy like that wants a head coaching job. But if you want someone on the defense, maybe just to really hold people accountable, both on offense and defense, I'd love to see Vrabel in the building. But this is a failure. This team is a failure. This franchise is an embarrassment ever since Andrew Luck left. They refuse to rebuild since then. I understand trying to salvage the season with Jacoby Brissett. The Phillip Rivers experiment worked. Cool. Once the Carson Wentz experiment fails, you move. You move on. You wash your hands of Chris Ballard. You wash your hands of everything. You wash your hands of Frank Reich. They should have fired him then. They didn't. I said it when that happened, and they didn't. So it's not a good time to be a Colts fan, but there's a lot of positives to it where you can start thinking about who you can get, and you start thinking about all the possible new toys you could have. Arch Manning in the 26th draft could be kind of cool, but I would hope they're going to be about 3-13 or 2-14 or 2-15 next year, 3-14. Not good for the Colts at all. But you know what? This was a good win or a good loss for us, because this really told us where we're at. This is a team that quit. They had a playoff spot in the line, and their coach couldn't get them to wake up, and that's a major problem. That's, at the end of the day, this is not on Chris Ballard. This specific loss, no matter what you want to say about the talent, this team was still more talented than the New York Giants, and their coach did not get them ready to go. Gus Bradley and Shane Steichen, I think it really falls on them more than anything. They seem to be the two real leaders in the coaching staff, and they failed. They utterly failed to get this team prepared. So, but I'm excited. It's a fresh slate. It's a clean slate. I'm excited. I'm glad this happened. We know where we're at as Colts fans. So, if anyone's listening, I'm sure there were people that just shut it off 5 minutes in. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you next week. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to all.